All right, folks, so this is a video about going to a different set of rims and adjusting for offset and future tires. So I'm not suspecting that anybody's going to do exactly the same as the thing I'm doing right here, but it might be helpful in helping you calculate how you might do your rims to accommodate, different rims or different sets of tires, different size tires, that kind of thing. So this is how it sits right now. These are the stock rims that came on the car. They are, 17 by 7, which is the same thing as the rims that I'm getting. But these have a plus 48 offset, where the ones I'm getting have a plus 55 offset because they're from a Crosstech. They just look a lot cooler than these do. So anyway, I will try to dive into the sort of technical aspects and how I came about getting to the final numbers, and how I try to compute and calculate everything to try to make it as correct as possible. I'm not a huge fan of wheel spacers, but I think if they're done correctly and you try to minimize their use, not putting huge ones on there or something, I think they can be, probably pretty reasonable to use. Again, if everything was all the same, it'd be better, but it's not. These rims are, like a 7mm offset, but I'm trying to put slightly bigger tires on it, so that's why I'm going with a wheel spacer. And I'll talk about like either the 12mm or the 20mm spacers I have. So okay, so this is the rear track. We got that thing lined up. See, it's lined up there. And now sometimes these are the same, sometimes they're not on cars, so that's why I'm measuring each one. So this one's about 70 and an eighth. About 70 and an eighth. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. It's like right at 70 and a quarter. I don't know if you can, it's trying to focus on the tire. Anyways, 70 and a quarter is where that is. I know this is not very scientific, but there's the other piece right there. It's pretty much where it needs to be. Okay, folks, so here we are, and we're about to put these wheel spacers on, but just as I had feared, they will not fit without doing some trimming of the current stock studs. So you can't have those sticking out. We gotta cut those off. So these are fine. All right, these are basically same length as that, maybe a little different. We'll kind of see how it goes with one. And but anyway, we're gonna cut those off. We're gonna put these nuts on there, and then these are pretty small nuts, a little bit shorter than these. Hold on. You can see the acorn nuts are bigger, so we're going to put the acorn nuts on the end. Hopefully these will back down far enough to hit the wheel. These will back down far enough to hit the wheel. Otherwise, I'll have to cut these off too, which, gosh, that'll be a trying shame. Okay, so these are pretty much close to, not quite all the way down. And the reason for that is I'm going to cut off not everything that's sticking out, but pretty close. So by the time the wheel is there, and what's left of what I've left on there, plus the space that I need for cutting, then that should be plenty. And the reason why I left these on there is it's a good reference, but also you could do that with like a marker. But after I cut these, I want to be able to back these nuts over the threaded area that I just cut, so they can kind of clean up any threads that are still there. So that's why I'm leaving those on right now while I cut them. and I'll get to cutting them right now. Okay, so now that I have all the metal shavings all over me, I have all these cut off. Now it's time to put the wheel spacer on and then sink. Well, actually what I'm going to do is use a wire brush on this right here just to make sure it's a nice flat surface and there's no junk on it or anything like that. And then I will put the wheel spacer on there and tighten it down to the factory specifications, which I believe is something like 88, but I will put it on the screen here because I'm sure that's not right. I'm sure it'll be something different than I said. So anyway, that'll be next. Now, I'm doing this just as sort of a precaution that's probably unnecessary. I did see another guy actually put anti-seize on this, which to me seems a bit extreme. I don't want there to really be anything between these two metals, and if it seizes on there, I don't really have an intention of taking the wheel spacers off, so I don't know that that's really going to be that critical. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, but most of the videos did not mention putting anti-seize on there, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, the one thing I did want to do, and that was I do want these to stay here, so I'm going to take this off. Everything's cleaned up, brushed off. I'm going to put just a little bit of, that might be a lot for some people, I guess, but blue thread. So here I'm just trying to speed along the process in the video, so I don't take up too much time doing something pretty simple. I'm just putting the lug nuts on, and then I'm going to torque it down. I did need to start the engine and have somebody press on the brake to torque them down, at least the front tires. You don't have to do that to the rear tires. Alright folks, so I torqued down the lug nuts on the wheel spacer to about 90. It said 88 to 110 from the end of a wrench, and then 89. But my measurements on the torque wrench were, within 2 pounds, so I figure that's pretty close. Anyways, that's what the wheel looks like. I was worried that these acorn nuts weren't back down far enough, but they appear to, the wheel doesn't appear to move no matter how much I wiggle it, so, and I'm still going to tighten them down a little bit further, and like to the 89 pounds or 90 pounds or whatever. But I'm going to drop it on the floor first. Okay, so one of the benefits of moving to this wheel spacer, sort of, is I hopefully won't have to do this right here anymore. That's a replaced lug bolt from last time, or lug stud, whatever you want to call them. And this one is kind of chewed up now too, as you can see. I'm hoping I can get a bolt on there and then just torque it down, and then it'll just stay there. But I might have to replace that. I do have a spare one that I could replace, but it does involve taking all of this apart, which is kind of a pain in the butt, so I'm going to see if I can avoid that. Down there you see a fair amount of PB blaster that I used to loosen that thing up so I could get it to, back it on and off and on and off to get all the penetrating oil in there. It worked pretty good. It was actually much smoother. Wish I had done that to begin with before I chewed that thing up like I did. But it needs to grab most of the stuff on the back. But we'll see how that turns out. I may have to replace it anyway, so we'll see. Alright, so again, hub centric. It sits on the hub, this part right here, and then we'll tighten that down, then stiffen the whole thing up. So it'll have the 5 lugs plus the hub centric part. So basically this does not move independently at all from the wheel mount, so, or wheel hub, whatever you call it. Anyways, I'll get the nuts on there and tighten them down. Okay folks, so these are the 12 millimeter studs, and 12 millimeter studs. They are 12 millimeter spacers, and as you can see, there's some left right there, but remember I don't have the wheel on yet, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second here. And that is why we, can't go with the 12 millimeter spacers, as we would need to redo all the studs. As you can see, there's no poke out there at all. That's pretty much flush. So those
bolts need to be, I guess, about 12 millimeters long. So those are not going to work, which is why we're using the
20 millimeters, which come with their own bolt system.
Okay, so that looks like about 71 and a half. I don't really know if you can tell. Or maybe just shy of 71 and a half. And that looks like about 70 and a quarter. No, I mean 71 and a quarter. 71 and a quarter is the best I can tell.
Well, that is the finished product right there. The new rims from Crosstech, so they're a little bit newer, plus decent tires that I'll keep for another 6 months to a year, and the 20 millimeter spacers. So as you can see here, it's nearly flush with the wheel wells, which I think is pretty cool look. And over here, pretty much the same. See, like right there. Maybe we'll tilt it out. And same thing with this right at the edge there. And same thing over here pretty much, as you can see. So they were way too far under there to begin with, I think. So that's what she looks like. I think it's a big improvement, and I feel like I could put the 225/60 or 235/60s on it without much issue. So we'll see when that time comes. Hey folks, so this is the Titan Wheel Accessories website. They have wheel spacers and along some other things. And these are for the 2017 Subaru Forester, like I have. And as you can see, there's a couple different selections. You can have from 3 millimeter all the way up to 50 millimeter. And 3 millimeters and 5 millimeters didn't do me much good. I was thinking about trying to use the 12, but it required all the extra studs, so I didn't do that. So I went with the smallest ones that had their own, in spacer stud system already there. So I went with this one, and we'll click on that one real quick. And it does kind of give you a breakdown of what these are. Specifications: it's 5x100 bolt pattern, 56.1 millimeter hub bore. You want something with a hub bore to keep everything centered, so it's not just the studs that are taking care of it. And then you have a 12.125 thread pitch. Okay, so the thread pitch stays the same as your stock lug studs. And yeah, lug studs. And materials, you want to stick, the normal thing for wheel spacers is you want to stick with a billet T6 6061 aluminum. That is what is basically recommended across the board. I think you're going to see any reasonable wheel spacers are going to have that. And then let's see, installation instructions, a couple things here. I mean, you should go through all this stuff yourself. But one of the things it said was the 12.125 requires at least 8 turns. I don't think I had any problem getting 8 turns in there to make sure that those things were squared away on there. In fact, I fast forward part of the video when I was screwing them all down because there was so much turning to get them down to where they needed to be. The other thing, torque specifications, it's to be no higher than 110. So if your vehicle manufacturer torque specification is higher than that, you're supposed to, or if it's lower than that, you're supposed to follow that. Ours was 89 pound-feet, so that's what we used. If yours is 120, you're still only supposed to use 110. So just keep that in mind. I would read through all these and make sure that you're doing it correctly. So this was a cool website that I found, recommended from another participant on the Subaru Forester forum. I had seen these types of websites before, but this one is a little more comprehensive. I've seen the tire size one before, which breaks down tire size right here, and it gives you the current tire and all that stuff right there. But this one adds in the offset and the wheel spacer. So currently we're still going to run a 225/60s. So you can put the offset is 55 and the wheel spacer is 20, right? So you come down here, as you can see now the offset, the orange is the new tire, or I should say the new rim with the different offset and the wheel spacer. So that mimics the wheel spacer right there, right? And so that gives you that. And then all the tire stuff is pretty much the same, right? There's not much difference there. And the offset total is 0.51 inches, or a hair over half an inch. So it's not very much. If I wanted to go to the 235 tires, I could put that in, and then that would show me like where that bumps out a little bit more, and you can see it's obviously a little bit taller here, a little bit, well, taller there, I guess, too. Anyways, you can see the difference is 1.4 inches total, which is a 0.7 ride height difference. And the difference, yeah, you know, at 57, at the speedometer showing 57, you would actually be doing 60. And the offset is still, you know, what it was before because we didn't change that. So just something to kind of look there. And this is a great site that, let's see, calculator. I'll put the site in the description so you have that tech information if you want to use it. Well, that wraps up the video. Hope you enjoyed the technical part there at the end. I hope that's helpful when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, whether you're doing just spacers or you're doing spacers because you did a rim swap like I did, or whatever it is, you know, trying to manage larger tires or different size tires. Hopefully that this video will help you. If you did like it, hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. And if you wanted to see more work that I've done to the several vehicles I've owned, you can hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.